Fantastic. What a great turnout. Like I say, I like the fact we're going to have to learn how to break the walls down and get more people in here on the weekly basis. So, welcome everybody. Thoughtful Thursday. I love seeing brand new faces in the crowd tonight. That's actually really amazing to hear the words kind of being spread through individuals to show up here, learn a little bit on Thursdays. So those who are new, hope you packed a parachute. This is going to be an interesting little talk and discussion tonight. We're talking tonight about metabolism. Everyone kind of lumps this together with the concept of weight loss, and that's not exactly what we're talking about, although that does happen. But we're going to be speaking on cellular metabolism, and especially the concept of healthy cellular metabolism, which is something we see missing from a lot of our population these days. I love the fact of going from very basics and getting people to understand some of the simple parts of biology, and then getting into the ultra detailed aspects of superfood and integrative nutrition and functional nutrition as well, for people to know how to do this work. But the point of this entire day, this evening, will be for everyone to go home with something they can actually do that'll help get their body working a little bit better for them in the coming months. So the idea is we work through our physical issues in order to find natural solutions, and we really want people applying them in their daily lives. So my name is Joseph Montgomery. I'm a certified health coach. I've been with Raw Revelations now going on 3 years, doing a lot of this individual work. And for my own personal side of things, for everyone to know, I went through the Institute of Integrative Nutrition out of New York, and that's where I received the certification and the ability to sort of pull from a lot of my own information to be able to give that out to other people so they can start applying it. One of the big things about coaching that's very different is you're really trying to step people through their own process. It's not that I've written a book or I have the perfect plan or the perfect food or whatever it might be. It's going through this process with individuals. And that's one of the best ways I have found to actually see change really occur. So thank you for coming this evening, for making this effort, for joining us. What we're going to do now is the way we start every Thursday for these classes. We do a breathing exercise that's conscious breathing for us to actually go through and learn how to tell and train our bodies to do something that it's not usually accustomed to. One thing about applying this to metabolism is a lot of people are shallow breathers just by nature, because you're only using one of the nervous systems that you have on your body to activate your lungs in a very tiny manner in order to just keep you alive. When you consciously breathe, one of the big things we're going to learn is that this turns on the secondary sympathetic nervous system and activates your body. And if you do this more routinely, more frequently through your day, just by breathing, you can have better metabolism. So the way we do this is we actually take a very long inhalation, 7 seconds of breathing in, and then we take a very long exhalation, 8 seconds of breathing in, or breathing out. Then we do that twice, and then what happens is we'll do 30 seconds of just empty space before we get into the rest of our talk tonight. And this will change the way you've been living your entire day, give us 1 minute of relaxation in order to move through the rest of this next hour. So if you'll join me, it's 7 seconds of breath in, and you're going to be holding once you fully have the breath in the body, and then you'll be exhaling out 8 seconds, almost to the point to where you have nothing left in your lungs. So that's the exercise, is really going full inhalation, full exhalation twice, and then space for 30 seconds, and then we'll get on with the rest of it. So if you'll join me, 7 seconds of breath in. You're just holding there for a couple seconds, and then 8 seconds of breath out. All the way down to where there's technically nothing left, and then 7 seconds of breath in. And holding, and then 8 seconds of breath out. Wonderful. Again, the whole room changes whenever you do that, which is pretty awesome, because all we did was breathe. No actual extra necessary steps in apply. Now, I know we have some people here with a little bit of just like movement restrictions, things like that, so this next part's optional. But when it comes to metabolic enhancement, we cannot forget about the effective necessity for movement and some style of exercise. That doesn't mean everybody needs to be a marathon runner. That just means movement, something about the way to keep your body going. So anybody who wants to actually join me for the next couple of exercises here, we're going to learn a little bit about how to enhance our metabolism anywhere. And that's one of the big pieces here of kind of understanding this process is it's not about going to the gym and spending an hour. It's not about running ultra long distances or biking from here to New York and thinking that's called exercise. It's just moving the body, and especially moving the body differently than you normally would move yourself. So what we're going to do is go through a couple of these exercises. I'll have to set this mic down, so hopefully it'll actually catch a little bit of the voice there. I think it's still registering some, maybe if I stand here. Okay, that'll work. Okay, so everybody stand up. We'll try to use the space provided. If we have to adjust the chairs just a little bit, that's fine. And anybody, like I say, that this is tough, just watch and enjoy, and we'll figure some, like I say, we'll talk about the applications for this later. So one of the best ways that I have actually discovered for enhancing metabolism in zero effort, in zero space, is a Qigong exercise that actually involves a body bounce. And literally, the way that you operate this, so for everybody who's trying to pay attention to look at the mechanics of this, you're really just going to bring yourself up onto the balls of your feet. It's going to be tough. So, and then you're going to let yourself kind of fall back to your heels. Now, one time feels like nothing. The idea with the exercise is you're trying to take the place you're at right now and enhance that operation to where you'll start actually body bouncing, and you'll do this activity for as long as you feel like. The unique thing is you're literally doing the same expression as if you were jumping on a trampoline, and this actually tells all of your cells to be active, and it actually enhances the way they would burn energy. So it doesn't take much, and the idea is just to spend some time. You might look silly in the office if you're doing this for too long, or if you've got a loved one and you're watching TV and you're like, I gotta do my exercise. But the idea is to get yourself into this motion, and this little exercise here, you're just sort of using that little action. It's not much movement. And believe it or not, the 70s used to have machines you had to buy where you would vibrate like this, and that was their whole design. That's all the exercise a woman needed to do, apparently. Now we have, much more different interactions. But that is an exercise anybody can do. Start for a minute. If you can do 30 seconds. If you have a body issue that's actually keeping you from this, they have rebounders that you can actually buy that have protective handles and give you the option of actually doing that in a much more safe way. But it's one of the best exercises for the human body. One of the things that leads to a ton of osteoarthritis and low bone density breaks is actually the inability to cause microfracturing whenever we land on our heels. So this exercise is a great way to strengthen the femur, strengthen the bones, and actually allow us to have an overall better skeletal structure. But the idea is work from a minute, get up to 4 or 5 minutes. It's hard to maintain this for longer than a minute or so, even just the first time out. The exercises are progressive, and it is one of those things you can do it technically anywhere. The other one that's kind of interesting that I like to sort of give people is more of that conscious breathing exercise, but it's a way of understanding that your breath is the most constant exercise minus your heart rate that you actually do on a routine basis. And just like we did with the conscious breathing exercise, there's a breathing technique in yoga called breath of fire. And the breath of fire is a very wonderful way for not only detoxifying the lung system and the blood, but it's also a way for actually getting the body system. And again, if everyone was doing that exercise properly, you probably even started sweating just a little bit in the last 30 seconds of doing it. This is a way of even being in your car, driving on the road, and actually doing a breathing technique, or sitting at home if you can't be up and active, to just use breath. So breath of fire, a little different than the breathing technique we did at the beginning, is actually successive breathing very rapidly in and out using the diaphragm muscles as much as possible. So the idea is the breath sort of looks like this. And the funny thing is it's hard. It really is hard to breathe this way. You start off for 10 seconds, go to 30 seconds, go to a minute, go to 5 minutes. You can progress this as far as you like for yourself. But this is something you can do anytime. Combine it with the Qigong bouncing, literally it's like an entire body workout without any necessity for any equipment. But you got to work up to using your system in that way. So the breath of fire is one of those to where you can spend that time. You can sit down even and actually just hold your hand right across your diaphragm and just feel that muscle pumping there and notice that your diaphragm is working. And this is a great way for anybody to be doing their own metabolic enhancement at any point in time. So set an alarm on your iPhone, allow for your body to do this every so often through the day if you're starting off first. And this is a good enough exercise for people who've not exercised in a long time to get their body ready for the exercise. So thank you for joining me for that. So, like I say, I'm already sweating. It's kind of crazy. But it is one of these things where we really want people to understand how easy it is. A lot of people are always talking about the idea it's too hard, there's too much effort. There's everything from water aerobics out there to just putting yourself in the sun. And even that's exercise because your body is doing something different than where it is normally inside and indoors. So we really want to understand that metabolic enhancement is very different than the concepts we carry around of large muscle weightlifting or long distance running. It's as simple as just doing something for 5-10 seconds that's different than what you've been doing up until that point in time. And if you get really smart about this, the unique thing is you can set it in the calendar, put it through multiple times during the day. It doesn't take much, a minute or so here and there, and sustain raised, and this is the big term we're going to learn for the talk today, basal metabolic rate. That's the key to metabolism. There's the concept here of understanding that we all have a rate where our body burns energy, and that's our flat rate that happens almost every single second of the day. When we go to sleep, it drops and it actually comes to be a little bit lower. As soon as we activate and wake up, our body starts to energize itself. If you're doing exercises like this, breathing techniques, qigong exercises, going to the gym, doing traditional exercise, the basal metabolic rate should elevate to the point to where you'll burn more in a 24-hour period than you will with even high strenuous exercise for an hour. Because if the base rate is actually heightened, then you'll see body burning and metabolism enhancement throughout the 24-hour cycle instead of just being reduced to the rate you're at right now. So the interesting thing is those exercises, take those home, introduce those, like I say, set a timer. If you give yourself even one day to be challenged by doing that 2 to 3 times in that one day, you'll start to notice that there is something to this. Keep it up for a long enough period of time. Get it to where, for myself, a couple years, I literally every day woke up and the first thing I did was 25 minutes of just breathing. No exercise, no actual gym time, nothing. And that was one of the big keys I found for about 40 pounds weight loss. And it was amazing that it was just breathing, but it was part of that initial step and stage of getting in control of my body. So use these little keys. Don't hesitate to ask questions if there is anything that I'm going over. I like that because everybody else can learn as they're kind of going through this. Yeah, so some people, again, I have no issue there. So that's one of these nice benefits. Like I could literally go and run 5 miles and go right to bed. But if you're a person who actually is metabolically enhanced to the point to where you have sleeplessness occur, try right around sundown. And the idea is somewhere between 5 to 6 hours, 6 to 7 hour is probably that best time. So you at least give yourself 2 to 3 hours to fully calm, to do the actual nighttime rituals you might have for being able to go to sleep effectively. We don't want to create insomniacs. That's not what we're looking for here. But we are trying to get it to where your body is activated on a much better level. So test that out for yourself. And if you try exercise at 5 or so in the evening and it's still not as easy to fall asleep at 9 or 10, then push it back another hour and see where you can finally get that to the point for yourself. But that's a very good question. Very good question. So nitty gritty stuff. Metabolic enhancement from superfoods. The easiest place to begin is B vitamins. Thank you for the crickets. Those really do help. The idea is actually to allow for your body to be absorbing more B vitamins. And this is something where we find a lot of food forms for B vitamins. But the big place we want to focus on because of the nutritional deficiencies we're experiencing in our population is methylated B vitamins. And the reason methylated B vitamins are so critical is because it doesn't matter how well or not well your digestive system is functioning and your liver process is producing methyl groups for your body if the B vitamins that you're taking in are already methylated. So that's what we're trying to supplant is poor digestion, a ton of allergies and inflammation occurring in a lot of people's colons and not allowing for proper digestion and processing of B vitamins out of our food. So it is interesting because a lot of people will just jump right into taking or injecting high dose vitamin B12 thinking that that's the solution for getting good energy. And the unique thing is that if it's not methylated, it's very hard for our body to actually absorb this and use it for what its normal and proper functions are. But one of the things about methylcoambalum, which is the methylated form of cobalamin, which is the actual B vitamin B12, is it's very common in most foods. I find it honestly in everything from energy drinks to cereal. They put it inside a lot of different juice drinks now because it's supposedly healthy just to have this material. The non-methylated version is really non-usable to humans. It actually doesn't come from a plant source that's readily available or digested by humans. And that's the other main issue we have when it comes to vitamin nutrition is knowing the sourcing for what you're taking in. This is a big thing because most of the cheap injections are also using the cyanocoabalam, which is, again, non-digestible. So even though you're getting the shot, and I know a lot of people, I think the stab of the actual pin going through the skin is what causes their metabolism to raise up like any normal person would, and they feel really good right after the shot. And then the day or two later, they're back down to not having any energy at all. And that's one of those where if I run after you with a small, implement to stab you, you'll probably move pretty quick. So metabolism can be boosted without ever getting the injection if you'd like to. But it is unique because this is the key or lead B vitamin for a lot of our cellular processes. And it is interesting because there's a huge propensity for people, especially in the vegetarian/vegan category, who don't eat enough foods that contain a decent enough B vitamins to even have the chance to get B12 levels up high enough to keep their metabolism going. So it is unique that we have that issue to where healthy eating styles of vegetarianism and veganism need to focus on getting good quality Bs and especially B12 back in the body. So it is unique because everybody actually can take different varying amounts. There's no set standard. Uniquely enough, a lot of blood testing from doctors will say that, quote unquote, a person can overdose and have too much B vitamin. Not really true because they're water soluble. They actually get flushed out of the body all day long, every day, and they don't form residual material that actually causes interactions. As far as I can tell with especially methylated versions, the cyanocoabalam, it's unique because that actually could be potentially reactive to some people because of preservatives that are used in order to keep B vitamin capsules and liquids preserved properly for you to be able to ingest them. So it's unique on this process. But with the B12, energy is one big piece in this. The other major side is actual DNA protection and mitochondrial energy production. So in our mitochondria, we use vitamin B12 to actually synthesize the compound ATP. And that's one of the big pieces that we'll learn a little bit here is that everybody knows that we have to eat. Very few people know why. And eating is what actually allows us to get the building blocks to produce our own energy molecules. It's not that you run on the McDonald's hamburger that you just shove down or the extremely delicious salad that you just put in the body. Your body has to digest them, break them into small pieces and parts, and reform them into your actual cellular energy, which is ATP. So this is that adenosine triphosphate is the key component. And what's unique is, yes, sugars do give us fast energy. We can quickly break down glucose and get ATP in the cells for a fast energy burn that a lot of time leaves us crashing between 10 and 12 o'clock in the morning instead of actually having good sustained energy. Whereas fat metabolism is longer energy but harder to break down at first. So it's unique as well too, and we'll get into some of the timing processes for eating for a healthy person to make it to where you never run out of good energy when you start to boost your metabolism. I want to make sure that I mention the other two big functional B vitamins, another three that are actually in here. B7, biotin, is actually one of these amazing nutrients that allows for the detoxification of our individual blood cells and individual muscle fiber cells that a lot of people are essentially decreased on because we don't have enough of them in plant foods. Biotin very readily comes from a lot of our greens, but the interesting thing is the soil is no longer sufficiently mineralized enough for our greens to even be producing good levels of B vitamin. So it's unique because we think grab the salad, get the healthy greens, do some fresh pressed juice, but the majority of the soils producing those vegetables are very poor in their own nutrients, and therefore you're not seeing it show up in the vegetables. So biotin is very critical for a lot of people who have sleeplessness, who can't go through the proper liver detoxification processes. And there are the people who more than likely, when I ask them the question, oh, so you wake up at night, what time? 2 to 3 a.m. And they'll say every night for some reason, 2 to 3 a.m., I always wake up. That's your liver literally trying to get you out of bed to go get some water and some better B vitamins, because that's the process it's going through, is it needs those components in order for it to properly do its detoxification. And if you live on that system for long enough without having those proper systems, that's where we see a lot of damage being done to the liver. Oh, we got a question in the back. Hold on 1 second. Yes.
We're talking about the B vitamins, so what I'm hearing from you is that multiple vitamin isn't really sufficient and or good for you to do.
Correct. Multivitamins are the pharmaceutical system towards health. The idea is you can get them whenever they're sick and give them the pharmaceutical prescription to solve the problem. But if they're not sick, give them a multivitamin, because then hopefully eventually they will. Correct. Whenever you buy any type of B vitamin product, especially.
There's not enough stuff in the soil to put the biotin into, so organic foods really don't make a hill of beef.
Here's the interesting part, is I partially agree. And then I say, yes, but at least you're not getting the average 13 pounds of pesticide fertilizer, larvicides, fungicides that are placed on top of normal crop. Yeah. Correct. She has a good foundation, being 98 when our country wasn't doing what they're doing now. And it's unique because one of these big pieces is what we now call organic was just normal food 50 years ago. And we didn't have to label it separately or differently. So we've had a big piece of change occur, especially in the last 30 years, with the influence of different manufacturers on this. The big issue is that once DDT and especially glyphosate was starting to be introduced aerially to crops, this allowed for the soil contamination that killed the bacterium, and that's where they're not converting the inorganic minerals like sulfur, like the things that create biotin, vitamin K, all of the really good essential vitamin E's are just not being pulled up out of the soil and delivered to the plants. Hydroponics is one of the few new technologies that we have that helps that process along, but we are finding again that hydroponics falls short because the amount of money spent to go into the water to make it properly nutrified is so large, it's still going to produce $10 to $20 lettuce heads instead of the idea of getting them back down to where they should be in price.
So we're still talking about something.
Correct. And that's where it's very amazing because, again, when you actually have people who do things properly, this is a fully methylated multi-B vitamin that allows for you to be able to take a couple teaspoons per day and get more than the actual daily nutrition value that your body's looking for. All of them. So, and fully methylated forms that allows for the body to actually bring those in. And the main thing about methylation, to learn a little deeper on this, is methylation. I call it the UPS system of the body. It's the actual package carrier, and it's the piece that actually grabs a hold of an item. And if you're trying to bring it into the cell, it actually transports it through the intestinal lining into the blood wall and allows it to be distributed throughout the body that way. Same way for detoxification. When we see methylation dropping to a point to where it's not working, these methyl groups grab a hold of a toxin, pull it out of a cell, and actually let it get deposited and be excreted out of the body. So we see them working both directions. The unique thing is again, methyl groups are burned on the order of about 15 or 1600 units per cell per day. So multiply that by about 50 trillion, and that's inside a vegetarian. Inside a person eating some meat or meat products fully is about 18 to 1900. So it's not that we're saving ourselves from the impending doom of losing a good quality of life by one decision or the other, but when methyl groups drop to the point where they're not fully functional, and your body does produce them, the difference here is that in a lot of individuals with inflamed colons, low functioning processed food, a lot of toxic compounds, we're just not getting enough to be able to keep ourselves sufficient. So that's a big piece of that. You had a question there? Correct. Yeah. Yeah. And the big thing, like we talked about the fact of B vitamins being water soluble, they're actually very important to take throughout the day. If you take a large dose of B first thing in the morning, you notice a very good urine color change, but then a lot of times you still are tired around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The unique thing is that you actually can maintain better B vitamins by taking in smaller doses routinely through the day. So what's nice about using the liquid B here is that you just would drop this into water and actually sip your B vitamins throughout the entire day that you have that water available. So you're getting a little bit to sustain energy. And again, that's where we see the big piece of unlocking basal metabolic rate and allowing energy to be sustained through the entire day with no crashing. That's the big key here. Very, very important. Great questions. Great questions. B3 is one that we actually have kind of learned to stay away from, but it was an amazing health benefit 30, 40 years ago, and niacin flushing is actually very critical for keeping good cellular health. It helps actually the B7 work better in terms of detoxification to allow methyl groups to grab a hold of compounds. So niacin flushing is actually a very common reaction we use for people who are taking pharmaceuticals, been exposed to any kind of environmental toxins in order to let their body flush material away. The reason we started developing non-flushing niacin, which technically takes the bite out of the dog, makes it just to where it's really non-functional anymore, is that it feels really weird. And our skin just kind of crawls and tingles and we don't really like it, but that motion of the skin is actually producing lymph secretion, and it's allowing the subdermis to actually push compounds that are being stored directly underneath the skin and the fat cells out of the body. Doesn't feel good. Every so often, it's really amazing. One of the unique things we find in nature, if you straight juice seeded grapes, not seedless, but seeded grapes, juice them down, drink that. It's one of the best natural niacin forms we've been able to find. And again, I think it's kind of fun. I don't know, like it's kind of interesting to walk around on pins and needles for about 2-3 hours, and it is interesting, but it is one of those where I get why people don't like it, but detoxification, it makes life easy. Correct. And it's unique because the old style animals were eating really good grass. Not happening anymore very often. So we have this issue where the soil's been depleted, the food for the animal's not being depleted, the niacin's not building up in the tissues of the animal, and we're not seeing it being delivered to the human body. So that's one of those unique things where, again, it's sad that we're talking about a system that used to work very well and provided a lot of great nutrients for this country. Now we're suffering because we can't get enough food. And really, the big thing about weight loss that I would, again, kind of let people know, one of the main reasons why we gain weight is because our body is trying to supplant toxin. It's actually trying to spread it out to where it's not going to cause death. And that's the unique thing about the homeostasis factor of our body trying to be very intelligent and adaptive to our environment, to our structure. The more toxins you put in, the more weight you have to put on to make it to where it's not going to kill the cells. Otherwise, if you left yourself to where you had not enough fat, it would actually allow for those toxicities to build up and the cells would start to die very rapidly. So it's unique because it's actually your body being very nice to you while you look in the mirror and maybe don't like what you see for the time being. And when you start to reduce toxicity, it's one of the fastest ways we see that basal metabolic rate because toxic cells aren't burning enough energy. That's where we see a major contributor to the propensity of holding on to a lot of material. And again, I went on a nice mono diet system of eating just 2 to 3 food types for about a year and a half. And the unique thing was it was 90 pounds loss. I'm a person standing here today saying that I went from about 270, 280 to about 180, 190 pounds is where I kind of average now. And if I probably pushed it, I could go a little bit lower, but I'm happy. I work a lot, so life becomes tough. But the niacin is a very key critical piece in this because we want our body being expressive. We want it to flush material out. It's unique because my one caution to this is take care of your liver and don't just jump into large dose niacin flushing without having a good, clean, functional liver. So we'll talk a little more about that in a second when we get onto the concept of MSM. Thiamine is a really another amazing B1, the first B vitamin discovered. It was the reason why we call it B1 because it was one of the very first we were able to look at under a microscope. B1 is this amazing cellular regenerator, and again, it's another piece that's very critical, just like B12, in the production of ATP for our cells. So I nicknamed that the metabolizer because it is the one that actually develops, and the main reason metabolic nutrition as a medicine science was developed was the discovery of vitamin B1. It actually gave us a concept for the idea that we needed to eat certain types of foods in order to be healthy. But so it's unique again because we're just not seeing these compounds available, and this actually used to be available in everything from all of our good tuber vegetables, carrots, potatoes, things of that nature. A lot of the plants that grow underground store thiamine, and it's also one that we find a lot of times in more heavy fiber laden vegetables as well. So thiamine's another one that I really want people to understand, that you can kind of create your own cocktail if you're not doing just the methylated B, if you're going out and finding your own high quality B vitamins and mixing those into your drinks, smoothies, teas, things of that nature. Yes?
What's the difference between the vitamin B and the vitamin B?
The biggest difference is the fact that most of the B vitamins in a pill form have been bonded to some compound, and that could be calcium carbonate. It could be different types of glycerin molecules. It's unique because one of the reactions that I always get about the expense of some people's B vitamins, and this is where B vitamins can come in everything from transdermal patches to the liquid to pills. It's not to say that one is going to vastly be superior. I like the fully methylated liquid because it's easy and very convenient to throw it into water or put it directly underneath the tongue. But the pill form, a lot of times, again, it's requiring the colon to be fully active and your digestive system to be completely functional for you to break that little vitamin apart in order to absorb the nutrition. So unless it's fully methylated, which very few of the pill vitamin B are, then we are missing that one big factor in understanding how to get better nutrition from our bees. They have a liquid form of the actual methylated system that you usually put behind your ear and just absorbs right into the bloodstream. Typically very well. Again, expect the price mark to be about $30 to $80 though. So it's one of those where it just depends on who's manufacturing and how famous they are as to how expensive their B vitamin is. It's amazing to actually get this particular B vitamin from Bob Marshall here for $22. Or we actually even have I believe that's an 8-ounce bottle for $80, which is much a very big cost savings. But the idea for most people is B vitamins don't have to be extremely expensive if you know what you're buying. That's a big piece in understanding. And again, these are typically derived from good food forms. If you've got strong enough digestion, then you're going to be able to break them out of the foods like rice bran solubles, moringa plant, the green juices that you're taking in. Beets have a ton of B vitamin in them. They are all helping us in that process. So it is very critical. But we see bees in every plant tissue, every animal tissue that's out there. The only thing we don't see it is if you're eating more of the Eskimo style diet, where you're just taking in fat for the entire half a year. So that's where B vitamins a lot of times do get dropped because fats don't hold as much B vitamin as we do and see the actual flesh of an animal. But the big thing is get them in. Start using them. Start with about a teaspoon, work your way up to even 4 to 5 teaspoons, and see where your body functionally has a difference in terms of your energy output. So if you're getting B vitamins in good concentration, you're going to start feeling that effect. You're going to have better waking, better sleeping, better energy, better digestion. They will start to move your body around. And if you're actively moving while you're taking in better Bs, you'll actually see this process multiply and have a better effect as well too. So, methylation is a key topic, but the reason it's key is because it actually does both the absorption and the detoxification. We have a lot of different methyl donors that we can eat versus relying just on our cellular systems producing them. So MSM is methyl sulfonyl methane. So it's methylated sulfur. It's sulfur that goes very easily and readily inside the blood system, and it's one of the best ways to start getting liver detoxification and activation in the body. So MSM is a huge benefit to the nutrient system. Not only is it a high-level anti-inflammatory, so it has the side benefit of actually reducing stress, pain, joint inflammation, skin inflammation, colon inflammation, but it also improves hydration. Because of those methyl groups, it's carrying water around the body more effectively. A lot of people, and again, show of hands, how many people here drink water constantly and are constantly thirsty? That's the funny thing. Well, not constantly thirsty, but it is funny because we see a lot of people who will always feel thirsty, always be drinking. And it's because the cells aren't actually absorbing the water. The methyl groups are so low, there's not even the opening of those osmotic holes in order to let water go in and out. And a lot of people will notice that if you're drinking a ton of water, a gallon or more per day, if you start using a good methyl source, that need for that much water can drop to the point of being maybe just 60 to 80 ounces instead of 120 to 150 in order to feel fully saturated and to feel like you actually have really good hydration in the body. MSM is what we use in our morning mix because we really like the idea. The liver, like I mentioned before, that 2 to 3 a.m. wakes up, tries to clean itself, and then goes back to sleep. Most people will wake up at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. They're eating food, and their liver isn't even beginning to start producing enzymes. And so that first bit of food that goes in the body actually sits inside the stomach for about 3 to 4 hours, and then it finally evacuates down the intestines and moves over to where the liver should start doing its job, and then we're already eating lunch. And the unique thing is now you have another big plug of food sitting inside the stomach, waiting for the first plug of food that came in for breakfast to be even digested. And it hasn't even started its process. A lot of times the liver for a normal person isn't even activating until about 12 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's why we actually see most people being affected by that dead zone brain fog that occurs in the afternoon. Because we have so much material in our stomach and in our digestive cavity that the blood flow has to go to where it's necessary to improve digestion, and it forgets the brain. And it actually keeps the blood away and that high oxygenation level we need for good activity. And so you're sitting at your computer, you're going through your day, and 2 o'clock you got to take a nap, and you don't understand why. A lot of times it's because you're putting a little too much food in the body and you're not getting enough liver activation. So MSM becomes a very critical key nutrient for all of these benefits to start happening for a person and boosting that metabolism. Very, very critical compound. TMG, though, trimethylglycine, is 3 methyl groups on top of a glycerin molecule. And these 3 methyl groups are very amazing for actually boosting cellular methylation in all systems of the body. Instead of just allowing the transport of a sulfur ion, you'll break those 3 methyl groups off. Now you can do triple the work and supplant all of that necessary absorption and detoxification to the body. It's interesting because TMG is actually a compound derivative from a natural plant. They call it betaine because it actually comes from beet juice, beet powder, beet extracts. And for people who are eating beets routinely, you're going to have a much higher methylation factor inside your bloodstream. The unique part about the bee powder here is that this is actually 25 pounds of beets concentrated down to 1 pound of powder. So this 25 to 1 concentration system makes these extremely sweet and delicious, which is the wonderful piece of beets, but full of TMG and really good B vitamins and great energy absorbers that actually start allowing the body to start breaking apart and raising basal metabolic rate. Methylated Bs, again, one of the unique things we found is that it's hard to use just the methylated Bs. They're actually programmed in the process of their development to carry the B vitamin in, and they don't seem to have as much functionality once they're in the body. So they're not the best way of raising total body methylation, but it is an amazing system for us to get used to using methylated material. And again, we go a lot of times into the vitamin world and have the discussion about liposomal or different forms of minerals, glycinates and citrates and bitrates that actually are trying to use science to find the best bonding techniques in order to get these vitamins and these minerals back in the body. Usually, I trust the fact that it was naturally designed and done right first, and I don't need to supplant it. Whole food nutrition seems to be the best way to actually get good quality nutrition in the body. We just have to look at the process that's gone into the creation and know who is doing the work and make sure, honestly, I'd say one of the best things about being a person who shops locally at the farmer's market on the weekly by weekly basis, the great thing is you can shake the hand of the person, ask them how they do it, ask them what they are going through in their process. Do they use any kind of compounds? Do they have that certification? Are they labeling it organic? Truthfully, if you can do your own, that's the best way. Average garden, literally contained within a 9 by 9 grow bed box, will produce about 100 to 150 pounds of food a year. We could all be doing this for ourselves. And it's unique because if we all got better at it, we'd actually probably find community surpluses and be able to take care of other people as well too. But then you know exactly what's going on inside your fruits, vegetables, everything that you're producing for yourself. It's a very key piece in this because whole food nutrition is the easiest and simplest menu to learn to eat from and to live from. It naturally cycles. You get certain vegetables, certain fruits available at different times of the year. So you're never eating one food type all year round, which is a great thing for the body. And because of that, your natural seasonality and the cycles inside your system are being flourished. Right now, we're getting ready to go into stone fruit season, which is one of my favorite seasons because you finally can make true fresh peach pies and really, really amazing good fruits before we get into the heat of summer and we go more to really good strong vegetables, and watermelons are around. And again, it's all of a sudden your body that starts actually craving the right types of food at the right times for your body's health. And it's unique because we need to go through these cycles through the annual basis. Yes, of course. Mhm. None. The best way to say it is that composting is the best because you need the detritus from whatever level that the plants from the previous year were trying to take out of the soil. It's hard to do soil amendment in the proper scientific method. Bob's not here tonight. We have a couple of people who show up routinely for these talks, Bob and Valerie, and they are organic farmer soil analyzers. That's what they do. So they give you a soil profile and amendment profile for actually fixing the soil for it to be proper. Again, it's one of those unique things is that for this valley, Temecula, Murrieta, up to Elsinore, we actually live in more of a sand bed, and it's very, very nutrient poor regardless. Even on the hills where we're growing our avocado and our citrus, where they grow well, is mostly granitic rock and very minimal towards the nutrients that need to be there for plant growth. The only benefit we have is that there used to be a volcano that used to produce actual lavic ash, and it used to refertilize everything up in the Santa Rosa Plateau. So some of that rock is actually a part of our valley here, but that's where the most mineral-rich soils usually come from, areas that have active volcanism. And that's what we actually see for the mineral recycling to occur to get it to where the soil naturally holds on to better compounds. Volcanic rice, volcanic garlic, anything that's really colored dark red, dark black is showing that it actually has a decent amount of good mineralization back inside of the plant fibers. But it is tough on the whole idea of doing it for yourself. If composting isn't possible or enough composting isn't there, there are companies that actually produce pre-composted soils. There's a really, really good one in Carlsbad that I would highly recommend, where you can just pull the truck up, take in 2 yards, and actually go and put that inside your flower boxes in order to do your own growth. The big thing is, I would say, don't be tricked by the fact that you wanted to start your own organic garden to get away from Monsanto, that you go and you buy a bunch of Miracle Grow. They own by Monsanto. So you're not really helping yourself by getting away from buying their product. Again, local. Go to people who do this in your backyard. Help them out. There's a lot of people who can help you on this whole process.
There's also mushroom farmer in Escondido.
Yep. Free soil. Yep. And he's got mycelium mat injected soil, which is amazing for increasing plant growth. Really, really awesome system there. Definitely good for starting to grow your own. So Now that we talked a little bit about the minerals, the vitamins, the nutrition that kind of goes into starting to boost metabolism. It's unique because one of the things I think that we are suffering as a society as whole, and one of the reasons why I love the South Beach slash Mediterranean style diets is that if we lived in Italy and we lived the Italian life, we'd have no problems. C'est la vie. Everything would be great. But we live in America where we're given the idea that if you're not working 10 hours, 12 hours a day, if you're not in traffic for at least 4 or 5 of that, if you're not going through this process, taking 2 weeks off per year in order to just get the breakneck bare minimums out of every single day, the problem is that that's where we actually see a major issue in our metabolic structure. Stress is the single cellular destroying compound that every single person produces, and it's unique because a lot of us just don't know how to deal with our stress very effectively. So it's interesting because I'd love for people to understand that really learning how to draw upon your own emotional states as actually being a bigger benefit is one that we can see to starting to change your basal metabolic rate. If your cells are stressed, that means they're not producing as much energy. They're in a sort of hibernation mode, and we really want to see how we can kind of unlock this. The exercises we learned, the breathing technique, the Qigong exercise, getting out and actually pushing yourself to the point of feeling your body moving, that releases endorphins. That causes your body to be relaxed. That's what actually allows for you to start receiving good benefits from exercise. Moving around and strengthening muscles, fine, but we're doing it more in a spiritual sense and actually using exercise as a way of causing us to be relaxed. Very, very critical, very key. So exercise, breathing. The biggest piece, though, is actually finding coping strategies to turn your distress into what we call eustress. That's the key to actually living happily, is when you can literally walk into any situation, any problem you normally face on a day-to-day basis and say, it's okay. I'm fine with that. It's not going to bother me. Hey, we don't do that. Yeah, exactly. No, the hard, heavy party life. I know a lot of people who, wake up, they drink the coffee in order to be awake. They take the whole day to be stressed. They spend the evening making sure they get a plenty good couple glasses of whatever their favorite alcohol is in order for them to finally fall asleep. Usually way too late, and they're really not helping their whole system out. So those types of strategies, we want to kind of invent new ones. We want to allow for people to keep good organized lists for what you're expected to do on a day-to-day basis. Not overstress yourself as best you possibly can. Focus, if you can, even a couple weeks out of each month, to getting to bed at a certain time and letting yourself sleep until you actually naturally awake. It's one of the best rejuvenating systems you can start to develop for yourself. And if you can program your body to live on just the sun and be doing that system, that's one of the best ways to have the most function. And there's a reason for following those environmental activation systems. It's unique because they have done a lot of studies, and they have found that Southern California freeway driving is as similar to wartime PTSD in the human body as what we could expect from any other stressor out there. And there's very few places in the world where getting in your car is almost just as dangerous and just as aggravating and just as frustrating, and you do it to yourself every single day. So it's unique because I really am promoting a lot of times for people to find the ways to take an additional day off, to work from home if they can convert their office into that idea, to go in on off hours, do the system that you can actually do that works better for your body. Learn how to kind of bend the world to you to make you a more functioning, happier person than always trying to push yourself to the limits of the expectations from everybody else. It's huge, huge in this whole process, because what we want to do by decreasing stress is actually getting us out of the situational and chronic illness scenarios that we constantly find ourselves in. We will see a problem, put it off, wait until it becomes such a big problem we can't do anything but focus on it. And that's a sad sort of structure about taking care of the only body you'll actually get in order to figure out how to live healthfully. We burn it until we can't burn it anymore, candle at both ends and the middle, and then we wonder why our health fails and why we spend everything we possibly can at the end trying to get ourselves back into some quality of good health and operation. So it's huge, and this is where the coaching and the actual like strategies of learning how to manage and modify your life are very, very critical. I mentioned dehydration with MSM, but a lot of people are so chronically dehydrated that they just have lost their thirst for water even. They don't ever get thirsty, and they think that's okay, that there's actually no problems in that. But for sleeplessness, for detoxification, for colon function, for just keeping the skin and the hair and everything active and working in the body properly, for your immune system and your lymph system to be working, you need to be drinking water. Situationally, the idea is if you get too thirsty in one day, your system will probably kick on and you'll come home and you'll drink a big, extra, glass of water in order to push it out. Do that for enough months and years on end, you'll be chronically dehydrated. Your body won't even worry about it anymore. It won't even try to get you to drink. You'll lose the thirst, and that's something where we want to see people going back to drinking good quality water. Natural spring water being the best. For a time, distilled or alkaline water, fantastic options. The idea is, again, buy the best quality you can get a hold of, but do not drink the tap water as much as you possibly can. If you can eliminate that from your life, you will literally see your health improve in such a fast way, because that's one of the few systems that I know gives more toxicity to every single person who is even cooking with tap water. Even, like I say, we've reduced it down to where we don't even brush our teeth with tap water. It's just not healthy. There's nothing in it that's good for the body. Purification systems are expensive, so the idea is do the best you can, but find a good source, start there, and see how your body improves by living on better qualities of water. Yes? Good for a couple weeks. Really terrible for people who already have leaky gut and no bilirubin. Bilirubin is the protective mucus on the inside of the intestines that actually keeps the leaky gut from occurring. Again, a lot of people are eating very toxic food compounds, and when you put diatomaceous earth in as a cleaning product, and that's what it does, it sort of scours the inside of the intestines. Do that for too long and be hyperinflamed and already have holes in the gut, and it'll make things a lot worse. Diatomaceous earth is technically like eating very, very tiny bits of glass. It's better to use things that are actually more like zeolite, clay minerals. Clay minerals will help detox. They will help break apart a lot of material from the internal intestinal lining, and look at your fiber intake, because that's one of the easiest natural ways of really promoting good colon health. It's not that diatomaceous earth isn't amazing, and I like it for a time, say 10 days at most, but we want to, again, find other more natural systems using things like moringa, fantastic fiber donor for good insoluble fiber, or even chia seed, another wonderful way of getting good quality fiber in the body. But it's unique because one of the big 2015 sort of rules I'm putting out there very frequently, count your fiber and your water. That's it. Don't count anything else. Forget the calories, forget the sugars, as long as you know where they're coming from. Forget all that sort of issue in terms of diet management and weight management, but 60 or more grams of fiber and 60 to 80 ounces of water. Very critical to keep to those numbers. Very, very health promoting. 60 grams, and that's insoluble or soluble. 60 to 80 ounces of water is the average person. And if you're not thirsty, never feel bad about going over that, but the idea is try to keep it somewhere in that zone. That's where most people will see their health start to improve. Rice bran soluble is another great insoluble fiber. And then, yes, the really amazing way of actually getting high quality fiber, there's 21 grams in every tablespoon of Jerusalem artichoke nectar. So this is actually coming from what we call a sunchoke, or the Jerusalem artichoke. 21 grams, and you can put it on everything from toast to on your waffles, on oatmeal. It tastes like maple syrup. Yeah, it's very awesome. Sunroot is awesome. And again, out of 1 tablespoon, a third of what you need for the daily intake of fiber. That's a wonderful way of doing it. People are going to really love that one. It's unique because there is still, now that we've kind of gone through the minerals, the sort of issues that affect metabolism, it's a lot of times getting down to the systems that are going to help you get out of this place that you're at now and boost your metabolism to the point of getting it to be more functional. And I can't say enough, and I do an entire class on just the thyroid. So understand the linchpin in good metabolic health is the thyroid gland. And most people, somewhere between 60 and 70% of our population, are hypothyroidic in the fact that we have far too much toxicity, way too many compounds going into the body that are actually killing the thyroid, and not enough iodine in order to support good detoxification and maintaining a healthy thyroid gland. So iodine is the most critical piece in the solution system for getting it to where you have any chance or hope of having a good functional thyroid. No. In fact, what happened after the 1930s is they used to iodinize all bread. And bread used to be the way that you would actually get your iodine on a routine basis. They did it they actually treated the flour, and therefore you were always getting some iodine. They found that it was a couple cents cheaper to use bromine to clean the flour, and bromine just happens to be toxic to the thyroid. And what's unique is they said, oh, we'll go ahead and we'll iodinize the salt. But then what they have discovered now, after about 70 years of this process, is that we don't absorb iodinized salt very effectively. It's actually the wrong digestive style to get it in our system. And that's a very big key of understanding where we've come from and where we are today. Iodine, again, is found in natural things like seaweeds and walnuts and dark, very heavy, rich colored material. Anything that's got a good black sort of quality to it does have some iodine. But you'd have to eat about 6 to 7 pounds of walnut a day. You'd have to eat about 3 to 4 pounds of seaweed a day to get the concentration of what you're seeing in just one drop of this placed in water. So it's very, very critical to see the difference. And now that we have the Pacific Ocean die-off from the Fukushima interaction, is one of those where seaweeds are not something I would recommend for really anybody who's trying to heal their body, and really anybody who's healthy should not be taking that in. This is actually a process that goes through, and they do take it from a lot of sea vegetables. But the nice thing is they're isolating just the iodine and the iodide molecule, so we're reducing any potential for contaminants or anything of that nature to come into the actual bottle. So it is a plant-sourced iodine, and as long as we can keep the oceans alive, then we'll hopefully still keep that product available. But luckily, the purification process and the isolation is getting it to where it's just pure iodine and iodide. And that's very critical in your understanding for getting good quality iodine back in the body. Yeah, the waters are more pristine. Everything south of the actual the coastline of China. It's luckily that the ocean puts the material that's coming away from Fukushima up towards Alaska, and eventually we're going to get hit with that here. So there is some benefit to the fact that it's coming from the Southeast Asian area and areas north of like Australia. Eventually, it's going to be a problem regardless, but it's really the filtration process and keeping it down to just iodine in the liquid that's helping us not receive the toxicity. Whereas if you're eating the sea vegetables, there's no filtration process they have for not allowing those compounds to be a part of the plant.
So what about the seaweed and
They are getting indirectly bombarded now, and it's going to be about another 2 years before the actual Pacific Gyre turns the water directly away from the United States and over towards Hawaiian Islands. So we got a year or so. Guam's better. Guam's better. Again, it's going to have less there, but atmospherically, there's no place to escape it. That's the problem. And I do a whole big, wonderful talk about the craziness of Fukushima, too. Yes? Really everything. I call the thyroid Grand Central Station. It actually senses the blood every 17 minutes. Your entire volume of blood passes through your thyroid. And it's the controlling box for actually telling all of the glands of the brain to produce proper hormones and proper neurotransmitters and really, really amazing signals that go down into the visceral organs to tell you how to better digest your food. And so without the information exchange occurring through the thyroid gland, we're really losing the function for all of our processes to work. So it's unique because as we see toxemia occur inside the thyroid, that's where we see hypothyroidism continue to occur and get worse and worse. And the unique problem that I have with the system that's there, and why we do one whole talk on just the thyroid, is that the solution is to give you the compound inside your blood to where you don't really need your thyroid to be there at all. And your thyroid, being very intelligent, says, well, I'll just turn off, kick back, and relax. And that actually shuts down the function even worse. And so slowly over time, you go from 20, 30 micrograms of the medicine up to 130, 150, and then eventually, well, the thyroid's just not even working anymore. Cut it out. We'll just get rid of that. You don't need it anyways, and you're stuck in the mode of never being able to actually heal the gland. Again, anything that develops as a problem can be undeveloped as a problem. And one of the big things about healing is that as long as it's still connected to the body, we can work on it. There is hope to actually develop a system for reversing thyroid issues. But we've got to go through a very selective process for detoxification, getting all the material in there that's killing the thyroid down. If you've gone to the Hashimoto's level to where your thyroid's being attacked by your immune system, it's doing that because it's actually better for it to kill the cells than it is to continue to allow the toxicity to affect the blood. Again, your body's very smart. Just by increasing the body weight and the actual adding more fat cells on to dissipate toxins, it'll kill an entire organ if it needs to in order to keep the rest of you alive. One of the big things in the 2015 mode or great sayings is that understand you are a interconnected, beautiful machine that operates solely on adaptation. Whatever is happening, your body tries to adapt. It's not like a car where you can drive it however you want and the machine parts are just supposed to operate regardless. It's actually going to sense what's happening and try to adjust each moment of the day. So it has a tremendous effect and impact. And so with a lot of these issues, and again, the Fukushima problem is a big problem because it released a lot of radioactive iodine. If you're deficient in iodine, your body doesn't know the difference and it will absorb the radioactive iodine, which will just further the process of thyroid destruction. So that's a huge piece in understanding where we're at today. But there is hope. Don't worry. Like I say, Fukushima's, I think maybe next month we'll do the Fukushima talk again. And again, it's fun. It's interesting. I have to laugh at it, even though it's a horrible problem. The liver is that next organ that honestly a lot of people don't understand the importance of because we sort of just take the liver for granted. We just expect food go in. It's a black hole. Who cares what happens in the end process? As long as I'm not constipated for too many days, I'll be all right. And it's sad because that's really the main filtration organ that whenever it becomes too overloaded with material, the thyroid receives a larger dose and a bigger damage because it's filtering the blood just as well. The liver is a very easy gland to take care of. It actually has a lot of open channels and big porous spaces. Loves citrus fruits, loves things with good spice. It loves to actually allow the body to detoxify very quickly and rapidly, and it does it every single night. But we don't do enough to support it in the ways that we need to with really good high quality sulfur. And that's one of the big keys of MSM is getting sulfur back in the body so you can actually create the enzymes that you need, and really high quality crystal salts, very critical in getting your digestion to improve as well, because it provides those micronutrient or the microminerals that we need, all the trace elements for producing a lot of the enzymes that go and are excreted from the liver. Yes. So like Himalayan salt or Celtic salt, any of the Icelandic, any of the sea-based salts, very different than your standard blue box Morton. So very wonderful to get back in the body. The liver, again, is responsible for cleaning. That's the big piece that it does. Once it's no longer clean, just like a vacuum vacuuming the floor, if the bag becomes too full, you're not cleaning anymore. You're just moving the dust around. The unique operation here is actually to spend time every year, and I do a detox right in the month of March that actually pulls everything out of my liver that I've accumulated for that last year. And when you get a good routine about yourself, you start doing this more and more routinely. The very first time you do it, you'll be amazed at what your body's holding on to. It's interesting. sickening in a weird way, but very interesting. And it's very sad because we always sit back and we go, why don't I just feel good? Why do I have a headache? Why do my muscles hurt? Why are my joints achy? Why do I not digest food properly? Why is that giving me gas? All these questions, and it usually goes back to, well, your liver's not working. And we need to learn how to support our liver properly. A lot of good root vegetables do a fantastic job. Things like milk thistle, dandelion root. And this is one of the big pieces where during the summertime, green drinks and juice for detoxification actually helps this whole process. Drinking lemon water first thing in the morning, every so often a little bit of apple cider vinegar, fantastic, easy-going solutions for actually keeping the liver clean. But physical flushing is something that we need to look at. And for people who have an overtoxified liver, usually end up having a non-functioning and eventually a necessary removal of their gallbladder. And so this is one of those connective pieces that we need to understand about our body. The more toxic the liver, the more likely you are to see shutdown in the gallbladder. And it's sad because I don't know how many people get pushed into removal of the gallbladder when all they need to do is flush it once. And it would actually clean itself out and it would be perfectly fine. And yet we just cut the little sac out and then we can never eat our favorite fatty foods, our comfort foods anymore, because once you lose your gallbladder, you no longer have the ability to produce lipase and all of that really, really good, down home country cooking, fantastic material gone out the window. So don't lose the good stuff, just clean your liver. Very, very critical in this process. What's that? No, not likely. I don't think so. Oh, a lot of people use that way too much, and especially on empty stomachs. Apple cider vinegar, great home remedy. But the interesting issue is most people, again, on that belly Reuben concept, if they don't have enough of that mucus coating protecting the inside of their stomach, they'll keep drinking the vinegar, and the vinegar has a pH of 2.4. And it actually will continuously increase the acidification of those tissues and create ulcerations. So it's great when you're having indigestion. I totally recommend it when you've eaten too much food and you're trying to get the body to break it down more effectively. Vinegars help. It increases the acidification of the stomach. But the everyday, especially early morning, is kind of tough and very hard on the actual stomach wall and can create and lead to erosion issues. So we want to watch that. We want to watch that a little bit. So the last thing that I think for most people to understand how to finally get the metabolism fully boosted, if you are working on the thyroid, you've got the liver somewhat going, the place we have the most problem is a completely sluggish, non-moving, not even close to functioning intestine. And our colon is just clogged. We way too much stuff that actually doesn't break down in our body. The byproduct we get from it is so impressive. Most people on average are carrying anywhere between 15 to 25 pounds of material inside your intestines. So if you want to lose weight really quick, guess what? You've got a nice big repository there just waiting to go. Sign up for a don't do the colonoscopy. They actually just recalled, and there's a lot of hospitals that are completely stopping colonoscopy. So, but the idea is colon cleansing is, yes, Evelyn knows from firsthand experience that a lot of times, especially colonoscopies, they very routinely fail and cause major traumatic injury and damage. The system is designed to go one direction. Leave it that way. And all you got to do is eat the right material, get it to where you can actually function and work on your colon health in the way of doing flushing and doing cleansing, and understand every bite you take actually has an impact on the way that entire system is going to operate. One of the beautiful things is at the bottom of the page here, if you just drop me an email, I have an entire month-long detoxification program that's very simple, very easy to run through, and it works on all the major issues of the body, from the liver to the colon, through the blood, and actually improving in less than 30 days the entire function of your whole digestive cavity, which is very critical for a lot of people who are trying to jumpstart into good health. One of the unique things, again, is that we are constantly, with having the colon plaquing occur, promoting the concept of bad bacteriums, diverticulitis, H. pylori, C. diff overgrowth, candida overgrowth, and eventually leading to blood sepsis and a lot of other health issues from just that main problem. Most rheumatoid arthritis conditions are some form of colon or liver issue that's being backed up into the joints. And that's where the immune system is doing a very good job at taking toxicity out of the joints and trying to fix the problem, and we just aren't giving it enough time to let it be clean. Diabetic condition, again, your pancreas senses what's inside your colon and produces the proper amount of insulin for digesting the food down. If you have colon plaque materials logged into the inside and you're only using the inner 1/3 of the actual colon, your pancreas never shuts off. This is type 2 diabetes, is you have so much insulin production that your worn out little pancreas right here in the center of the digestive system just gives up and stops trying to even produce enough insulin to break down everything in the body. Again, metformin overuse and prescription use is one of the biggest problems for metabolic dysfunction and improper health operation for humans. Not only do they set the standard to where technically most non-functioning individuals have to be below 100, and that's just not healthy, but they also have created a condition to where they didn't try food first and look at improving the body in their own healthy ways. So it's unique because this whole process of us going through and trying to understand, I want people to take home a concept that they can start implementing tomorrow, this weekend, whatever you feel is good for yourself. Getting ready for a month-long detox, that might take a couple weeks and a little bit of conversation with me. So feel free to at least get the information, to where if you're interested in that, it's a great place to begin because it gives you a nice, fresh new feeling, let's just call it. But it is one of those processes to where you can at least start taking B vitamins. You can start working with MSM. You can get certain basic food compounds back into the body. And if after today you're interested, we do have recorded on Ustream and on the YouTube channel the 5 essentials, if you missed that one, which is a few weeks ago, to understand why iodine, magnesium, sulfur, vitamin D, and omega oils are so critical for your health. And yet this is one of these sort of secondary understandings for those compounds really working in our body. So very wonderful way of going through that. And our library is increasing every week as we're keeping on giving these talks and letting people understand these very, to me, very basic and very bite-sized sort of pieces. Do you need water? If you do, Mike, this problem. Hey, Mike, can we grab some water? We'll get some. Like I said, I don't want you to keep coughing. But it is one of these where I really want to help support people in any way I possibly can towards getting your body to start work better for you. The key is raising basal metabolic rate, decreasing toxicity, improving organ function. Thyroid, liver, intestines. Let's go home on that. So thank you very much, everybody. If there are any questions that you have that anyone else might be able to learn from, feel free to share so we can go through those. Yeah? Uh-huh. Yeah. The drops are easier to carry around. The alkalinity from a machine is gone within a couple days. So you either have to drink the water immediately or else it's not working. Yeah. Hawaiian, I mean, I like it. It's in my cabinet. I use Hawaiian. I have all of them. I mean, I probably have 30 types of salt in my house. The clay is just to be an extra detoxifier. Mm-hmm. Helps detoxify.